It's Diana. I'm going to take these off. I We've had a really busy day, and I just wanted to give a shout out to all the people who served our nation. Happy Veterans Day. Because my husband, he's first recon Charlie Company back in '94, and he was the 200th anniversary of the Marines. He was the youngest Marine, and he got to attend the the ball as an honor guard, which was great for him. He went into he went straight from high school, and he went to join the Marines. He was 17, and at that time, and that's the time um, he was told that he was the youngest. But the thing is that he wouldn't have been by 2 weeks earlier. I mean, prior to that, a 17-year-old committed suicide, a Marine, just to get out of it. It's just, we're looking at combat. He went into combat Vietnam and over there, and he was first recon, so he did some of the dirtiest deeds on trying to recover bodies over there, and those people weren't good. They would kill people, chop them up, and throw them in the pigs. And he had to do it. He had to get them out of the pigsty because those pigs will eat anything. And so instead of the turning our prisoners back over to us, and they knew we were going to get them, they killed them, and then they fed them to the pigs. And he had to be the one that would go down to get into the pit to get the pig. I mean, not the pigs, but get the body parts out and the dog tags and everything like that. And only 17. That marks your brain. It really does. But they didn't. That little place that had killed that town that killed the Vietnamese killed our people. Well, they got obliterated. Obliterated. And the airplanes came by and just wiped them off because they destroyed they killed our people. Well, anyways, we went to Hy-Vee's and we got ourselves a meal, a breakfast. We got free breakfast over there this morning. And then we went to Walmart and picked up our medications. And then we went to the food pantry. And we always like going to the food pantry. Food pantry is also a little bitty thrift store, too. And they give away free clothes. I got this blouse there. See? I had to get something over there. I've been changing. I dropped so much weight. I'm down to 133. I went and see my doctor yesterday, and she took 4 tubes of blood out of me. I said, I don't know why I'm losing weight, because I've been drastically losing weight. I was 149 when I seen her a few months prior, and now I'm 133, and I'm melting away. But, if this is it, that's okay. We all get this way when we get old, and before you die. I'm just withering away. That's all it is. And then some days my body's going to just shut down. And hopefully my kids would check on me. That does worry me because I hate to have them find a rotten body when they come back and see me. I mean, all bloated and exploded and spread all over the place. Yes, I'm morbid. But that's what happens. You get melted. You explode and you melt down into your bedding or your floor and like big old goo. And that's why a lot of us family members, we'd rather get cremated because we know that you're going to spend over $3,000 on a coffin that you're going to later, and a new suit, and you're going to later explode in that. I told my sister that too, and she I think that was the biggest thing about her changing her mind about having a coffin. And plus, we don't need to be displayed. I'd rather have people remember me as my living being than having them remember me as my dead face. And don't let anybody try to kiss me when I'm dead, okay? That's a traumatic experience my younger sister had to go through with her dad, and she was only about 5. No, let's see, I was 13, so that meant she was only about 7. So it traumatizes people. It really does. Kids in their later years don't kiss dead people. They're dead. That's just a dead vessel. Their soul's not in there anymore. That's what I was telling my doctor yesterday. As I said, she took 4 tubes of blood out of me, and I was really surprised. Usually, it takes a while for those blood to come out of my arm, but it shot out like water in those tubes, and it was less than a minute for all 4 tubes were all done, and I was out by the lobby again, going out the door. But she's going to check for things to see if something's disrupting me, And she's also I got a doc. Oh, like this, got my hair cut. I was telling my doctor because see that it was my wellness for my checkup for my Medicare. You have to go through it one every so often, and just so that you can still get the benefits from Medicare. And so, but my hair was grown long, and I found that I was catching my hair and shaking my head. And I don't like that, not one little bit, because it brought back old memories. I had a niece and a brother. They pulled out their hair. My brother had a big old bald spot, and he was only about 9 at the time, and I was let's see, and so I was about 13, and I pulled out all my eyelashes. I did that for about 2 years, and he did that about 2 years, and it was at the same time. So, you know, it it was hard for us. Our childhood was hard for us, so that's how we dealt. We just, mentally we were attacking ourselves, and we didn't, you couldn't help it. Children can't help it. They just go for something and start pulling on it's stress, it's anxiety. And we had a horrible childhood. But we survived it all, but that left a mark on our lives. And but my blood was nice and rich red. It was really pretty red. It was almost like a fire engine red, which is good. That means I haven't been eating a lot of meats. It's more vegetarian, and I'm not planning on that. It's just that I have no back teeth, no molars in the back. Like none in the top up here, and none in the top back there, up here. But my mouth is so small that I can't even fit dentures in there. There's no way dentures can fit in there because my lower teeth can almost touch the upper gums, and that don't fit. But we did get the kitchen done. My husband and I got done with it, and now it's just unloading those darn thing crates. I've got those storage and those. It's the industrial size type of tubs that I got. I call them my bumblebees because they're yellow on top and black on the bottom. And I said, I got at least 7 or 8 bumblebees that needs to be unloaded from its honey. um, I got so many dishes, but some of them are going to stay packed now that I got them nice and packed up. But at least I can decorate the kitchen the way I want it to, and that's what I'm working on is getting my certain pots and pans out, and certain utensils, and I'm replacing utensils, and there's some things that like pots and pans that I'm going to keep forever because for my born days because they were given to me by my late older brother for my wedding at my wedding to my husband, and that was 47 years ago. And yeah, 46 years ago. And but we've been together nearly 50 years. And so he got me that, and then my little brother Martin, he got me some black and white dishes that I I did break a saucer, coffee cup saucer, and it's just because something toppled on my dishes on my china cabinet, and so one plate, not one plate, but one of my saucer bread plates they got busted up, and I don't think I got a replacement for that. Or I think it's a coffee cup saucer. I think it's a coffee cup saucer that I don't have. I mean, so that I'm itching. There, much better now. But yeah, I was pulling, my hair was so, I was grabbing my hair and I'd shake my head. And that was scaring me that I was going to pull my hair out. So I cut my hair short like I mean, I normally did that because I couldn't stand hair in my eyes. It met, I have, I see something and it's like 10 times bigger than my, than it really is. So it kind of scares me when it flips in my eye like a hair or these hairs or the hair going in my face. I can't stand that either. And bangs, I have funky bangs. They don't curl down. They'll go around and out. And out like that. And they don't go back like feathered hair. No, they just kind of curl out like that. So that was why I don't wear bangs. I got a Whittles peak right there, and it was deep when I was younger. It went down like that. So it's just kind of losing some hair, but it's being gray. You don't see it as much, but it's hard to park your hair. You know, one side wants to go one way and the other side wants to go the other way. But I put on my earrings. I thought I was really going to struggle because I haven't worn my earrings in almost 2 months. But I thought they might heal up or something, but they didn't. And I guess that's because I pierced them when I was 14. I did it by myself. I froze my ears. I soaked some cotton threading and needle in alcohol and let it sit there for a little bit. And I pierced my ears. And I didn't like it because I pierced it too low. So then I pierced it a little higher. So I got 2 holes on these ears, but I only used one. Sometimes I go up from one and go out the other. You know, from the front, I got 2 holes in the front, one in the back. But yeah, it was really good. It was just to make sure my wellness and mental health is taken care of. Yesterday, and she's going to check in on why I'm losing so much weight. I'm glad I have a colonoscopy. I said, Doc, I'm not supposed to have one but every 10 years. And she's looked at my chart and she goes, 2015. I go, oh, I guess it's about time then, huh? And she says, you since you did well on the last one, you can do the home test. And I go, well, isn't that a 50% false positive? And she just nodded. And I go, well, then I ain't going to go for that. My mom had polyps. You got to look at what your parents had. When you were like with my mom, will come down to me. If it was my brother, it would be what dad had. Because a lot of these traits come down from, mother to daughter and father to son. And so mom had polyps and she had to have those removed. And let's see, but she also had cancer. She had cancer right up in the top of her head. She called it her horn. And she let it grow there for some time and didn't tell me about it. And then when I seen it, I seen black around it, around the edging. I go, oh no, that's not right. And I took pictures of it and I made an 8x10 so that mom can see it because mom was blind and she can see if it was blown up really big at that time because she was totally blind by the time she died and she was totally deaf by the time she died. She's always had hard of hearing and that's from that building explosion when she was 17 was the hearing, and she would always have infections in her ears. That poor thing. I was telling my husband today, I said, we were talking about his late brother Carl, and then we were talking about my my grandparents, and how I took care of both of them. I said, Earl, I'm just so tired. I can't take care of anybody else but you and me. And I says, I've took care of everybody all my life. And I took care of my grandmother. She was 20 years older than my mom. My mom was 22 years older than me. Well, for then I was in my 40s, and I got my mom, who was deaf and blind, who was in her 60s, and my grandma in her 80s. And so I took care of both of them. I moved down the road. Grandma lived in a house. Mom lived in a high rise 1 block away from Grandma. And so I lived straight down the road from them so that I can go over there, check on them real quick, and then get home because I'm also working full time and I'm raising my children and my family, and trying to juggle all that. But I managed, and I don't take back anything. I don't regret anything. My grandma, the first thing she said to me when she broke her pelvis before she went into the nursing home, and she had Alzheimer's. She and I'm her oldest granddaughter. I'm second to the oldest of her 38, about 38 grandchildren. And so, I'm the caregiver. I'm a caregiver, and I took care of them both. And I made sure that I took them to the stores. I changed their clothes. Washed their hair, set their hair. I took care of cleaning their house, helped cleaning their house, and so did my siblings. But they only came like once every 2 or 3 months, if any. They never went and visited grandma much. But my cousin Butch and his family would come and visit grandma. Um, Hardly anybody else would ever visit grandma when she was in the nursing home. My mom went into the same nursing home, but about, I'd say about 9 years later, my mom, not even that, my mom went in the nursing home about 5 years later because she had mom turned 80 and she fractured her back, and this was about the third time, and she was living in the high rise. So I had to, and I was always checking on her, but when I couldn't get through on getting through knocking on the door. I finally got the manager to help me open the door, and I found mom, and she was on the bed, and she couldn't have been on that bed more than 24 hours because I'm always checking on her, but she must have been laying in there for almost 24 hours. She goes, Diana, I can't move. I can't move. She had fractured her back again. She had severe osteoporosis, and they were like her bones were like Swiss cheese. She can drink a person under the table, and she can smoke like a smokestack. That and that is all she ever wanted in her life. And when it came to taking care of his kids, as long as she had her coffee and her cigarettes, she don't care if we went hungry. That's our lives. That's where our lives was. And that, it I did so I can admit that I stole groceries when I was a kid because I told my husband that. I said, "You know what? As an adult, you can look at it." But I felt for the longest time guilty for stealing groceries when I was young. And the thing is that when you're only 12 years old and there's no food at home, then you have to come up with the plan to eat. And so there was even this one time where I got my 3 little siblings, and I got them together, and I told them of a plan to go into Ball's grocery store, which was on County Line at the time, right next to TG&Y. It was a boardwalk, and Mission Road and County Line. I think that's where it was at. And we lived, I think we moved in, let's see, and we lived on Rainbow. So we drove those kids. There's a school that was on County Line too. And so they had a stoop, which was steps that led up to another floor from the outside, but you can hide underneath the stoop. It was open. You could sit underneath there. And I talked to the kids and I says, this is how we're going to do it because we were all starving where you're vomiting up that acid because there's nothing on there but your stomach lining. And so I said, what we're going to do is we're going to go in the store. We're going to get some grocery bags and we're going to blow them up like we got something in it. And we're going to walk around. We were going to separate and walk around, toss something into that bag. And that way we'll all meet back up here under the stoop. Okay. Don't have to stay in there very long. Just grab something and put it under in the bag that, we can share and eat. And what I did, I grabbed tuna and I grabbed a can opener. And then I went, and then everybody else grabbed something too, even if it's canned good. I made sure I grabbed a can opener, and we met up underneath those steps, and it wasn't a feast, but we had some tuna, and we had maybe snack cake or two. You're looking at us kids. I'm only 12, and the youngest one's about 8. So there's the 4 of us that's starving. And mom's at home went totally wiped out with her mental breakdown. And we didn't have friends. I didn't have any friends. I'm introverted and I didn't have any friends. And some of my siblings now, they had little friends. They got to go over to their house to eat, but I didn't, so I was really suffering. I didn't have nobody's house to go to eat. But we ate. And then I started babysitting at 14, and mom wanted to take my money because her mother took her money. And I says, no, mom, you're not getting my money. Because it was always towards cigarettes and coffee. And so I would, and the groceries would always run out by the last week of every month because we would go to A&P way down in Fairway, and we'd get our groceries and we'd use a shopping cart to bring it all the way back up the hill on Rainbow to get to our house. And then, because we were second house from the corner there, and so we had from the light, we were right there at the light. And so then we had to return the shopping carts, but we always ran out. We were so hungry by the first of the month that we just tore into the food. And and mom sometimes gave us the list and just gave us the list and the money. And we went, there's 5 kids. I'm 12 and I'm pushing a shopping cart with 2 shopping carts, my 2 sisters and my brother. And we're bringing that groceries right back home. And we run out by the last week. And then I was stealing lunches. And I hate that. I really hated that. Nobody should. Mom didn't know anything about free lunches. She didn't. She was too out of it to even consider anything like that. And so I'd be so sick. I'll be so sick when I go to school. She just can't stay out of school for so many days, And then towards the end of every month, we were basically really sick. And so I took like a cupcake from one bag and probably an apple from another. And that would be, and during gym class, we had to take showers and stuff like that. And so during gym class, I went and I would get an apple out of somebody's locker and get maybe a bag of chips from another. I just needed to get something in the stomach because I'm still in gym class and I didn't eat. And I probably didn't eat the night before. And showers, sometimes our water was shut off. And if water wasn't shut off, our heat was shut off. And so I took showers. I mean, we had to take showers in gym class, so I was more than happy to take a shower when I got in there. Felt so clean. Their water was just barely warm, but it was warmer than what we had at home. It was hard. It was really hard. It was even hard when I had my son Tommy. Um, I had to we'd run out at the end of the month and of groceries, and I was living with mom when I divorced my husband. He was a bum. He didn't want to work a day in his life. Um, so I had Tommy, my oldest boy, and I got pregnant when I was 16. I just wanted to have him. I sought someone out who would jump my bones, and he did. And his name was Tom. And so I got pregnant, and I just wanted to be loved back. I never got held by my mom. I don't ever remember mom holding me and telling me she loved me or anything. I was in my 30s, almost almost 40 before mom held me and said, "I love you, Diana." I go, and that's the first time mom ever did that to me. I wasn't her, I was the one I was the most responsible. I wasn't her favorite. And then later on in the years, even when I started taking, mom started seeing me in a whole different light as a responsible person. And she knew how to get back at the others. She knew that she's not a man person. And she, but with my sister Penny looked like my stepdad. So she'd go after Penny because Penny looked like my stepdad. And then and they would they were two little shorties. See, I'm 5'9" in my heyday. My mom was only 5'3" and my sister was 5'2". And they go around like two chick was it the fighting chickens in the yard in circles. You hit first, like they were going to duke it out. But that's how mom and she acted together. And then my sister Joy, she was timid. She was emotional. And mom would nail her on that. Mom knew that. She'd push her buttons just to get her upset by just saying a few words. She tried that with me too. But mom actually tried to hit me when I wasn't even pregnant. I was 15 years old, and she, as I said, she was mentally broken. She talked for hours and hours, but she'd make me sit there and listen, and that's where I got that realization, dissociation. I started I went really bad. I had it because I was being molested by my stepdad and I didn't have a safe place to go, so my mind created another world and a safe place. And then I went to making me sit there for hours on end, and that went for a couple of years. And I would disassociate. Well, apparently she thought I wasn't paying attention to her, which I wasn't because you get in my face and start yelling. I just stepped into my safe world. And my mom, she was just going, she just talk off and talk and talk and talk. And I don't know it's this craziness thing talk. But I said, I'm the introverted. I'm the only one that stayed home and had to listen to her. Oh no, the others got to go somewhere. They had friends. You see, they had outside friends and they escaped. I didn't escape. I didn't have anyone. I didn't have no outsiders influencing me, no mentors. And so when she went to take a hand and go to hit me right across my head, across she would have hit me right like that, real as hard as she could too, if she wasn't going to use her fist. But I caught her by the arm, and I just looked straight into her eyes, and I said, "Woman, don't you ever try to hit me again." And I was only 15. Ever since then, she respected me. She never caused any trouble with me. But I knew I wasn't her favorite either, because she collected welfare for us, and I had to ask for $2 or $3 a month just to take care of my personal needs, because she wasn't going to buy it for me. And then, but she got Social Security check because my stepdad died, and she'd been collecting it for my brother Martin and Penny, and she would split that money in half and gave each half of a check. They got new clothes. I didn't. I had to get thrift clothes, and that's where I got my clothes. I didn't get new clothes. I didn't get new shoes. If I got new shoes, I got it off the clearance rack at Payless or something, because I couldn't afford it. And I spent $2 or $3 on shoes before because I couldn't afford big sturdy shoes. I had to get the really cheapy ones. But at least, I walked with a big crack across my shoe because I had to walk to Wind Up from Bunker. And it went right off 18th Street. And I had to my shoes were broke. They were literally broke. The sole broke right across the sole, and the snow would go right up in that. And those were the kind of shoes I wore. I didn't get new shoes. I got tennis shoes that was probably $2 or $3 that you can wear in gym class back in the day. And then I always bust out the toe because, I'd have them until my toe came through the end of it. But yeah, today's Veterans Day, and see, I wandered off. This is my mind, and I'm trying to stay focused and everything, but I'm not doing that great with these new pills that I'm on. And I see my doctor next week. He probably changed my medication for my depression medicine. If I don't take my pill, and I don't usually take it until about noontime, so don't ever call me before noon. Oh, you can't call me anyway. I don't have a phone. We don't have a phone over here. You know what? It don't bother me. I wasn't born with one. Oh, it's so true. It really don't bother me. I would rather have people come and visit, but nobody comes and checks on me. We live here all the time. And we live basically in the dark because we don't want to burn the extra electricity. We're on fixed incomes over here. And so that's why we don't have a phone. And we got text. People can email us if you need, and if my kids are watching, you can email Dad. I don't read emails anymore. If you want to see me, you know where I live. And I hope you all come and visit sometime where you won't find us dead on the floor, melting into the carpet or something, or on my bed where I'm just withering away. I told my doctor yesterday, she's not my psychiatrist. She takes care of physical and mental health. But she's that's her. She can take care of that. I purposely searched one out for that, and she's also my husband's doctor too. But I told her yesterday that if I die, I wouldn't be surprised if my husband dies within 6 weeks after me, or if he dies, that I die within 6 weeks after him. I seen my aunt and my uncle. My Uncle Tom died 6 weeks after my great aunt Irene died. And he loved her so dearly. That was her third husband. Her third husband. She was married before Uncle John. So was my grandma. My grandma was actually married. She got married at an early age. She said she was 12 because she was jealous of her stepmom and dad. She was always the girl of the one that ran the household, sort of. And then this woman came in, and that was Lillian, and uh, and she really couldn't handle that. So she ran away, and she married a 15 or 16-year-old boy, and Garland Knight, no, Hignight, Garland Hignight, and they were married, and they lived, and she went and she lived with her mother and her stepdad, Lucille and Dixon. I can't think of his name, but it was Lucille Dixon. And they just so happened to live next door to my future grandpa and his wife. They were next door neighbors. And then my grandma, she broke up like in November with she got broke up with her in November, and went and seen Red Tinsley. His name was Oscar Tinsley, and Oscar Tinsley, and so she married Oscar Tinsley. Then they had to get that annulled because Grandma didn't get divorced from a Garland. But as soon as she left Oscar, and this was all within 2 months. Okay, 2 to 3 months. So Grandma was with Oscar, broke up with Oscar, started living with Grandpa, and Grandpa broke up with Hazel. They didn't have any children, but Grandma did get pregnant by her first husband. And since she was just a child, her dad told her that a child should not be raising a child. And so she had to give up her baby. And I believe her name was Joanne. And it was a little girl. And she had to give up the baby for adoption. And so it broke her heart. And so, but her husband, Garland, he was just a 16-year-old kid, and Grandma would told me that she complained so much about him just laying on the sofa all day long. Well, they didn't have TVs back then. So he was just laying on the sofa all day long, and he's just being 16 years old. And that's when I think she married him when he was 16 and she was 12. And so they got divorced. But no, they didn't get divorced yet because Grandma had moved in with Grandpa. And that's where the confusion come in, because see, Mom was born that following August, on the 17th of August. Within those two months, Oscar Tinsley and Grandma was with Oscar Tinsley and then switched over with Grandpa. So Mom was confused during her years, thinking that Oscar Tinsley was her dad, because if you did the math, and it wasn't, because I had DNA done, and that Tripp family runs in my side of the family. So Grandma, Grandpa, so we are Grandma and Grandpa's kids. The thing is that Grandma and Grandpa Mom was born in 1932. They applied for their marriage license in 1938. They had about three kids out of wedlock, and I think she may have had the twins out of wedlock too. Grandma had a full set of twins, but she miscarried at the last moment because they're in Armadale. They had a trucker strike, and she was help running one of the Trip stores down there, little grocery stores down there, and the truckers, and she was left alone at the grocery store, and the trucker came with the goods. He left them by the curb there in Armadale, left them by the curb. You don't leave things by the curb in Armadale, especially groceries. And so she tried to carry them into the store, and it tore this placenta from the baby. The babies were torn away from her, and she miscarried in the toilet. Then she miscarried at KU with the second one. So twins do run in the female side of the family. Twins only runs in on the female side of the family. They don't run in. The males cannot have carried down the twin gene thing. Only the females can carry that down from mother to daughter. So remember that. Men determine the sex of the child. So if they don't like it that the female was the strongest swimmer, shame on them. They should feel honored that they got a stronger girl out of the bunch. Strong girl out of the bunch. But yeah, men's sex determines the sex in turn determines the sex of the children, and the how many children you have is determined by the woman. Yeah. So it's not the not the gunpowder of the men that causes the twins. It's the woman that's got that special thing going on. I had a set of twins. My second son, he was the second one born out of the twins. Now my oldest one would have been the older one didn't make it. My babies were born in the same sack, and so they shared the same thing. So, one became a surrogate and took all the nutrition, and it was deprived the other one. So the other one didn't live past 5 or 6 months in size. So that one came first, and then Bobby. When my son Bobby was born, he had the cord wrapped around his neck 3 times. And it was also, he did a somersault on my belly. And it may have not been his cord that was wrapped around his neck, so, but there was a cord wrapped, there was a cord wrapped around his neck 3 times. And I had to stop pushing so they could unwrap it. And then there was a knot in it because he did a somersault inside of me and swam and caused a knot. There was a tight knot in that too. He had learning disabilities. He's a delayed learner, is what he is. It caused speech impediment, and it took a long time. He was about 4 years, 4th grade, when he started talking clear enough where he could speak in sentences. I spent more time on educating him and working with him than I had to do with the other two, because they're book readers. Those kids can understand it. Bobby had to have more of a different way of teaching him, because it was a show me, and show me while you're explaining thing. So it did, and plus they said that he was about, at that time, like 18 months behind on it when he got diagnosed when he was 3 years old with the speech impediment. We thought it was ears, but it wasn't. He was mumbling because he just couldn't say his words. And so he had to he went in, we did preschool for about 2 or 3 years. He turned 6 in kindergarten. And he was almost a head taller than the rest. but at least he was on the same level with the children, and that's what I wanted him to be at. I don't want him being put down. I want him to be mentally on the same level with his friends, And so we did. We got him. We did that, and I made sure the school was taking care of him because, you know, I I put him through 3 years of preschool, which was training him on a balancing beam to get that motor skill working for him and everything. And the school didn't recognize that. And I didn't catch that until my son was in third grade, and he says, "Mom, they're calling me a wino." And I felt so bad. And when I did a parent teacher conference, and she jumped on me and says, "How come your son's not learning?" And I looked at her. I says, "There's files on my son in the office. Why don't you teach my son?" I go, "It's your job to teach my son, and you're not looking at his files?" And you know what? That next year, that was over there in Gladstone, Missouri. That next year, they put all of those kids that had learning disabilities in one classroom. They learned the hard way. See, my son was passive. These other kids would get frustrated throwing books, flipping tables. So that following year, they separated them. They put the passive children in another school across town and kept the other children there because there was fewer passive children. There was aggressive. But the problem was my daughter started school at that elementary school too. And now I got two children that are in two separate schools that I had to run and pick up because they don't drop them off with the school buses. Mm-mm. And so I had to go and pick up the children from two separate schools, and I did that for several years. But you know what? Eventually, but my son, he enjoyed that new school. He made some lifelong friends. Yeah. And it was the best thing for him. And I'm so glad because, you know, he would have probably had low self-esteem if they didn't do that. And if I didn't push that, they would have never started those classes over there. So, yes, it's me. For anybody who's going to Gladstone, who lives in Gladstone, and you have a child that's in special ed over there, it was me who started that because I raised the stink. I rock the boat, and that's the way I am. If you're going to teach my child, you better be teaching them the right way. I'm trying to do my best at home, but if you're not doing your best, then how can he learn? I'm not going to let my kids slip through the cracks. But anyways, this is just me. I didn't know what to do today. I'm tired. I've been walking around a lot today, and I'm on an oxygen machine now. I'm not on my BPAP machine. They took me off of that, and they said that I am that because I did another sleep study, I had to go with another company because they lost my records at the old company for my BPAP machine, and they did. And so since they can't find my records, I can't get reorders, on my mask and stuff like that. And so I had gotten tested by another one that I asked my doctor to recommend if I can get another test done, and she says it's been long enough we can do that. And she recommended someone else, another company that's near right there where my hospital's at, over at Advent. All my doctors are over there, so if all the records are kept on the same computer, so if something comes up, they just have to pull up my name and they go, "Oh, look at that. She's got at least 3 or 4 folders of paperwork here." But all my eye doctors, my therapist, my psychiatrist, my physical and medical doctor, and And I got this. So he gave me a 4-hour oxygen tank, and um, that will help me through a night if I don't have any electricity. I have to wear my oxygen at night now, so I wear oxygen. And I said I don't need the BPAP machine, that I just normally snore. I go, okay. But the thing is, I got this curvature, I got osteoporosis, and I sleep in a fetal position on my side, so at night, and so I don't breathe well at all, and I keep knocking my mask off. I have to tape my oxygen face thing to my face, and I told my doctor that I get really lightheaded a lot still, so she's running a whole bunch of tests on all that blood. I gave 4 of those tubes, and it just squirted in there like there where my blood was jumping ship. Oh, I don't know. I told her I'm confused, and I have to go in for a 10-year colonoscopy. I says, "Good luck with that, doc." I says, "I don't know how that poo's gonna ever come out of me. I'm taking fiber." I says, "I'm drinking fiber in my water every day, and I can't chew food, so I drink." And I says, "I can't chew food, and so I'm drinking my V8 to get my 2 daily servings of vegetables, and I can't chew meat, so I'm drinking my protein drinks. I'm trying to keep this vessel up as long as I could until it's time for me to go home." I can't wait to see Jesus again, because I told you before that I seen Jesus. I walked with him, and I found on YouTube that a lot of people has walked with Jesus and talked to Jesus, and he didn't have to say anything to me. I just was so comforted. He held my hand. He held my hand, and I was just a small child, and I looked up at him, and I felt so much peace. And he just smiled down at me, and I smiled back at him, and he held my hand, and I felt so much peace. I was so happy. And I knew if I can just keep remembering that he held my hand, then I was going to be okay for the rest. So every time I get in turmoil, I remember how Jesus held my hand, and he gave me the encouragement to get over this, all through my life, and we're like that. I always call him my friend because my friend walked with me, and we walked through a meadow, and it was wildflowers, and they would wave in the breeze, and we're on the hill, so we're looking down in the meadow and watching our wildflowers kind of just wave in the wind. And we looked back up at it, and the sun was just to right, but just so high in the back. It was just so beautiful. It was just so beautiful. And I was right there holding the hand of Jesus, and I was so good. That was so good. And I felt so much peace, and he made me happy. And every time I think of him, I am happy, and I always think of us like this. Yeah, and it's always my strength. I mean, he always, as I said, he never left me. There are times that I get so messed up in here, and I ask the Lord to please forgive me when I get messed up, because I don't want to forget. And I told him, I says, there's going to be one day I'm going to be forgetting to say my prayers. And I said, will you forgive me for not remembering to say my prayers? And because, I don't want to stop doing things like that. And I don't want to think ill of people. I pray for all souls. You want to hear my prayer, what I normally say? I would say, when I say my prayers at night, I would say, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord our souls to keep. And if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord our souls to take. Jesus bless Bobby, Tommy, Becky, and their families. Earl and I and our animal family, our siblings and their families. And I pray for all souls, O Lord, that we may find our way back home. And please help us find our way back home, O Lord. Thank you, O Lord, for all your gifts you had given to us. Help us with our mental and physical well-being, and help us with our finances. We do need you, and we believe in you, O Lord, and we want you in our lives. Again, thank you for your gifts. In Jesus' name, amen. And that's what I say every night. And so I try to cover all souls. I want to pray for everyone to go to heaven, because some things, you can't help on earth because you're mentally broken or physically broken. And, I don't want to keep anyone from going up to heaven. They have to rectify with Jesus, but at least I'm putting in a good work for them. Well, I'm going to let you go because I think my time is going to end now. It's a long one. I'm sorry for making it last so long, but it's just I don't know. This is how I was at the doctor's yesterday. I don't have an attention span. I can't end very well, so I'm just going to cut it off right now. I'm going to say I love you all, and I mean it. And I hope that you all can go to heaven too. See you.